Hey y'all, welcome back to Roots and Refuge. Y'all hear the birds singing? You see the sun shining? It has rained. It rained non-stop for days. I mean, it would like slow down to a drizzle and then it would pick back up and thunderstorm more and rain more. I mean, we got inches and inches of rain. There's a lot of flooding in our area right now. Thankfully, our farm like drains really well. With the pond and the low point, and it was put together very well when they built that pond, I think in the 80s. Just all the contouring and stuff, we don't have to worry about anything flooding. But I just needed to come outside. I'm trying to like wrap my head around my week. We actually have more rain coming, but we're gonna take a quick walk while I make a list to be able to come out and get some stuff done. I will say it was pretty ideal for me to be able to plant my tea garden right in the midst of all of the rain because these plants look very happy. So apart from racing out to the barn to milk and do chores and then, you know, running around the farm, we've been wearing, you know, like rain ponchos and our rain jackets and stuff because you still have to do all the chores even whenever it's pouring. The other day, Toby came in. It had been storming just for hours. It was just coming down in sheets. And we had waited off a little bit, kind of waiting early in the morning just to see if maybe it would simmer down some. And it didn't. And it was getting to the point that it was like, okay, we have to go do chores. Like it or not, it's not changing. We're going out in this. Well, Toby came in and I was like, man, this stinks. Toby goes, what are you talking about? I love lazy, cozy, rainy days. I was like, all right, well, go get your jacket. And he's like, outside, go outside. You know, they've really just started doing chores every day just in the last handful of months. And this is the first time this has happened. And I said, yeah, we gotta go. Even with this, I was like, hey, you'll like that lazy day even more once we get back in the house. And he goes, man, this stinks. I was like, no. Obviously, rain is beautiful. I will take it anytime. Even the inconvenience of getting soaking wet while doing the necessary chores is worth what it does for the farm, for the garden. The earth needs the rain. And I'm glad to live in a place where we get it. I have a little bit of a mess to clean up, pruning these tomatoes. I was just kind of going by looking at them. We have lots of flowers being set though. Look, little baby tomatoes getting started. This is a Cherokee Carbon. The amount of growth in just a couple of days is crazy. Look at the tomatillos. All the mug collection in the greenhouse is growing. I need to swing back by here and carry these into the house when I go. What are you doing, buddy? So I knew after this last week of just so much water that the weeds in just everywhere were going to be crazy. But in the cottage garden particularly, they're pretty wild. Oh, but look at this. These gladiolas are about to open. The space fills up super fast. It's crazy. It's about to eat that bench over there. So I filmed the garden tour that went up Saturday. And that's the last like substantial chunk of time I have spent in this garden. I came out here in the rain to tie up tomatoes because I knew that they were growing like crazy and I did not want them just laying in the mud, the big ones. I knew the younger ones that I had planted would be okay because they're still upright. But man, they've grown inches. Walk over here. It's so muggy and humid out here. And just everywhere is so saturated. I actually put my goats in the barn when I realized like, oh wow, we really are gonna get days of rain, and just put like really deep straw in the stalls because when it's so wet like this and then it goes right into really hot and humid, which is what's gonna happen. We're about to have like the highest temperatures we've had yet this spring, this week. It's really rough for parasites. Oh look, y'all remember when I scrounged those Dutch fork pie pumpkin seeds? They're all coming up. It worked. I missed their birthdays, so happy late birthday, little guys. So one weird thing about having high tunnels is that even though we got several inches of rain outside, the high tunnels obviously don't get it, which is part of what helps keeps plants healthier in here, because you can control the water they get. But we don't have irrigation in these, so now I'm gonna have to water it here today. We actually are working towards irrigation, which will make this automated, but still, even when you have irrigation, you have to run it even if you're getting torrential downpours outside. Y'all, my leeks are looking glorious. There's some really nice leeks in here. I think some of them could still use some time. If you have a great leek recipe, I would love to have it. I have a few that I like, but I am open to trying them. Leeks are not something that are just incredibly common in American cuisine. I know that they're much more commonly eaten in like British food, but I would love some leek uses. I'm gonna get my boys to help me with this job. We're gonna have to come through and pick out all of the rotten strawberries, which is sad. We have to get them off so we can get more fruit. The ones that are good, man, they taste like heaven though. They're so juicy from all the water. I don't expect strawberry season is going to last just a whole lot longer with the heat that we have coming, but I might still get one wave of berries, and then they'll peter in throughout the season, but they don't taste very good after a while. Like that. I just sat back here eating my handful of blueberries and my few good strawberries. So stinking good. I get a little overwhelmed during this exact period of homesteading. Spring comes, you're kind of spinning plates, like you're getting, there's a lot of balance. There's a lot of going through lists, knocking things off, and there are a lot of short windows. Like for instance, the garlic, the elephant garlic was all starting to try to go to seed, and it was like, okay, I've got to get out here and get this done. And then there was a 5-day window where I really couldn't. So now, of course, it's time to get out there and get it done, or else, I'll get to that. Or else. I'll get to the or else. When you're homesteading in a modern world, you're oftentimes doing other things too. Like, for instance, my son Asher, I'm emotional today. If you cannot see that I am emotional, if you've not picked up on that, Asher had his last day of high school today. Man, is even as thankful and grateful as I am, it is still a lot to process for a mama as her children grow up. I'm getting ready. We're going into basically the week of celebrating Asher's graduation of it's actually his 18th birthday. We're gonna have lots of family time and a graduation party and all that stuff. And I'm at this place of like, well, dang, I really need to do the elephant garlic. I really need to get all the rotten strawberries off. There's this long list of things that my plan had been to do them before the festivities started, and nature kind of crunched things. I've been through this before. I've been homesteading now for over 10 years. And I have been in this exact situation a handful of times. I still feel a little overwhelmed. Like, I still feel like, oh goodness, the grass grew like crazy, with all of this. So there's another thing on the list, making sure the goats are good and dairy animals and all the stuff. It's just, the list is long. We eat the food that we grow. We largely eat the food that we grow. And it is the majority of our diet is what comes from our farm. The meat that we raise, the dairy that our animals produce, and of course what comes out of our garden. I love coming out and harvesting dinner. I like preserving things. I love the opportunities that it gives me to try things and to experience foods that would otherwise not be available to me. I'm thankful for the fact that, I go into the store during the summer and I'll see a single small specialty melon being sold for $4 to $5, and I'll know that I've got a trellis at home that has 15 of those in it. I'll see the little blister packs of colorful cherry tomatoes for $5, and I'll know that I could go pick that week a 5-gallon bucket out of my garden. And I've shared before, feeling cherry tomato rich. I appreciate the financial aspect of being able to grow our own food, and there are definitely priorities. Like, for instance, in the case of the elephant garlic, if those flower stems grow down in the bulbs, that just means I'm going to need to process those sooner. It's not the end of the world. I can still pull them, dry them out. I just can't store them as long. And I have that priority. Obviously, if I had like a sick animal, if it was like, okay, you've got to take care of the animal or you've got to take care of the elephant garlic, I choose the animal. It is a balance sometimes, which we don't have a sick animal right now, thankfully, but last year when Jackson was graduating, we were dealing with a lot of things like that. And what that ends up being is whenever you're like, okay, I've got a balance between my kid, my family, and the priorities of the farm, ultimately that just means you sleep a lot less. Like, it just means that you do really long hours and a lot of juggling. And thankfully, in the case of like a partnership with Jeremiah and I, we do a lot of tag teaming of I'll cover this, you cover that. But there is one big principle that we hang on to, and it's a phrase that if you've been around with me for very long, you've heard me say, and that is, you got to let the low end drag. I am thankful I can be a modern homesteader. I have backups, you know, like if I lost all the garlic, it would be okay. I hope I don't. I would much prefer to have my fully organic homegrown garlic. But if I lost it all, it would be okay. And I have to keep myself in perspective because I don't like losing anything. Like, I don't like feeling like I've failed at something I set out to do. But I have learned in taking on all of this and having a big family and creating content and all the things that my heart really desires to do and to do well, is that sometimes you just have to let the low end drag. Sometimes it is going to pour rain for days on end and you just have to adjust. Sometimes your animals are going to get sick. Sometimes your kids are going to need you in a way that they haven't before. And if you don't maintain some sense of flexibility and with that the ability to just let go of some expectations, you're going to find yourself honestly breaking. If you don't bend, you will break, because every single person has a capacity. And there are circumstances that you can control. It's just the way of it. You know, I'll read books. A really good book that comes to mind, I might need to revisit it. All right, I had to look it up because I couldn't remember the title. It's by Robert Morgan, and it's called Gap Creek. And this book, I read it a while ago, and it really set with me in a really cool way. And basically it's set in 1899, kind of like northwest South Carolina, you know, kind of upstate South Carolina. And it's just a very simple book about a couple that was kind of just starting their way in that era. And, you know, they grew their food, they lived off their pantry. At some point they essentially like run out of money and they have to live on what they've grown. And it's just amazing to me the way of life that people lived in for a long time versus the way of life that people live in now. And the truth is when we look at our life now, a lot of the things we think we need, we don't need. And we're just balancing so much in our modern world, you know, like with societal standards and all of that. All of that to say, walking through the garden right now, I start feeling kind of anxious, like, oh my goodness, when am I going to get it all done? You know, when am I going to do all of these things? And the truth is that I probably won't get it all done. I will probably get 85% of it done. At the end of this month, I will have preserved a good bit of food. I will have sown a good bit of food and cared for a good bit of food. I will have loved my child fiercely and made him feel very special and seen. And I will have shown up in the places that are important to me to show up. But there will have been a dragging low end. Because sometimes whenever you are a high achiever and whenever you set out to do all the things, you find yourself in a position that you go, wow, I can't. You know, circumstances arose and I'm not going to get to everything. It's not going to be to the standard I hoped. It's not going to be what I had envisioned. Somebody told me once, if you're juggling a lot of balls, some are plastic and some are glass, just make sure you don't drop the glass ones. And it's the same principle. Let the low end drag. It's springtime. If you are gardening, if you are homesteading, if you are tackling a life uncommon, there are going to be these crunch times that you may get a little bit overwhelmed. That doesn't go away. I've been doing this for a while. It still happens. And that overwhelm causes a lot of people to quit because they would rather throw their hands up and be like, oh, I've failed, than accept 80% done. Don't quit. Just let the low end drag. Keep moving. It's fine. As much as I appreciate everything the garden gives me, I remind myself regularly that I am not actually fully dependent on it. And it's why I often remind myself that my goal is to thrive and not just survive. You know, whenever I first started to realize like how broken and fragile the food system was, it was like, oh, we have to grow our own food, we have to have sustainability, we have to have food security. And the truth is like, look at this. This is security. This is sustainability. Even if every single clove of garlic went bad, this is still security and sustainability. But the goal is not just constantly survival. That will cause you to stress about every single little drop that may fall over the edge of your capacity. But if the goal is thriving, it reorders things, and you realize that you can thrive with 85% of your productivity. You can thrive within your realistic best efforts. So this pep talk was for you, but it was also for me, because if you're going to walk in any sort of truth, you're often going to have to remind yourself of it. So that's my little talk after a walk in my overwhelming garden. Thank you for hanging out with me today. God bless you. Until next time.